We talked about politics, we talked about the influence of extraterrestrials, we talked about natural events that could be destructive. There's a deconstruction going on multiple fronts. What will be the role of the extraterrestrials in terms of supporting that reconstruction, or, and more importantly, helping us to understand who we are as a species?
So I think that's already well underway. It has been going on. I mean, just because we haven't had contact on a global basis doesn't mean it's not happening globally. And I think I've had experience with that. I'm sure many of the other people on this panel have also had direct experience with that. I've had direct experience with it since I was 11 years old, when I lived in Rendlesham Forest.
Which is an incredible story. Why don't you tell everybody about it?
I lived in Rendlesham Forest in 1980, and I'd been digging a ditch for my dad in the backyard, and our house butted up against the forest, and it was right next to Brentwater Air Force Base. And so it started raining. It was the day after Christmas. It was Boxing Day. It started raining, and I went out in the middle of the night to put a tarp on top of this ditch that I dug for a retaining wall that my father asked me to do. I was very proud of this ditch. I don't know. I always wanted to be a ditch digger, I guess. And so I went out there in the middle of the night. It was like 2 o'clock in the morning, I think, and it was like a misty. I mean, it was Englanding outside, is what we used to say. And I put a tarp on top of it, and I saw lights in the forest. And it was really strange because it was almost like I got my memory wiped or something. And I remember being out there and that night, and then the same thing happened again, but this time I didn't have to do the tarp. Somebody pulled me outside on 2 nights later on the 28th of December, 1980.
That's the Backwater thing.
Sadly, that's also significant.
That's right. Gary Osborne interviewed me also for his next book or whatever. And but yeah, I was 11 years old. And what was interesting is Jim Peniston, had got the fine structure constant from that, and also all the geo-coordinates of like the sacred sites around the world and everything. And of course, the fine structure constant has a big role also in all of my work now, like a huge role. And so from that time until now, and then again, really in a major way in 2017, I started having direct experience and direct communication with Arcturians. And it started again in 2017, in October. I was there with the Sid Goldberg in Egypt. And I was basically told at that time, and then when I came back again 7 months later, I went to the pyramid, spent the night in the pyramid by myself, and was taken out the ceiling. I mean, it went like through a wormhole throughout the Buddhist system, to the Pleiades. And they asked me, they're like, okay, do you want to go to Sirius as well? And I'm like, I felt like I'd been gone forever. I was only gone for like 5.5 hours, but it was literally like flower of life. And the ceiling opened up and I could see out in the stars. And the next thing I know, I'm looking down at my body. And you're in this cyclic, autonomic breathing where you just start going, when you take a breath, and while you're breathing, the chamber is still going whoa, 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 whoa. For those who've been in the sarcophagus, you know what I'm talking about. And then after doing that for about 20 minutes, that's when I saw this 8-petal flower of life open up in the ceiling, and I went out. And I was hosted by 2 Arcturian guides. They were like greenish blue beings, mainly blue, I would say. I've seen other Arcturians that have been more green, but as they ascend, they also tend to change color and go this more bluish color. And they told me, they're like, we're like future humans. That's the best way to think about it. And you're on a cyclic time, and basically your soul has been here for 13,000 years. And it's time to awaken, because now we're going back into this next cycle. And basically that this is the time. And then it said all the way up until 2029. That's what they said. 2029, and Apophis is going to be a major trigger. So 2027 is going to be a major trigger. Gene keys, all of that, very, very true. And that's really for the awakening and the 144,000 in particular. And then 2029, Apophis becomes a massive trigger for this shift. And of course, there was also a lot of discussion as well. And this is back in 2017 about 2026 being the timeline for massive solar flares coming on Earth as well. And then 2029 being, even the potential for a dramatic shift.
And is that shift on the physical level or?
On a physical level, yeah. So if you look at the King's Chamber, and this is actually on Codex, it'll show, the King's Chamber is like a 2-to-1 rectangle. But actually, if you look up in the sky, and you'll see our 4 North Stars are also on a 2-to-1 rectangle. So it's like a clock. The King's Chamber is literally like a clock. And all the zodiac are etched into the walls, just as Dolores Cannon said. They're all there. And the north side is the Taurus side. The west side is, you can see a king's face as well as a lion etched on the wall. And then you can see Delphinus riding a Pegasus on the east wall, and a fish. And of course the Aquila. And Delphinus is shooting an arrow up at the Aquila. And you can see all of that on the east wall. And then on the south wall is Ophiuchus and Scorpio. And then part of that wall is really damaged, so it's missing a lot of the content on it, because that's around where that air shaft is, and there's like a big vent that is placed there. So the point is that it's a clock, and we're going around this clock. And the entrance is right on the location of where Aries is, like the beginning of the cycle. And on the north wall, there's the face of Orion, and underneath the face of Orion is a bull, the Apis bull, and the Hathor, which is right there. You can see it. I mean, it's literally right there. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. And so the point is that they were just saying, we're on the cycle, and this is now the cycle we're going into New Earth. And I certainly wasn't planning on telling all of this. Back to the government.
Where do we ascend from here?
Yes, where do we go from here? Yeah, so 2030 becomes year number 1.
Meaning what?
It's going to be such a profound shift, 2029 and the end of 29, that literally we'll speak of 2030 for the next many thousands of years as the year number 1. And do what with it? Buy bullets, buy toilet paper. That's going to be Actually, we might use dollar bills for that.
So Darryl, there's a preparation of consciousness, and that's to go along with all this serious transition.
Yes.
What does humanity need to do to best prepare for an awakened pathway forward?
I will talk about that, but I want to comment on something he said.
Even better.
Because he's just sort of corroborated something that Bashar had been talking about, because people often ask him about the Great Pyramid and what are some of the functions of it. And one of the functions he's always said was that it was designed, especially the King's Chamber, to vibrationally promote astral projection. And that's what you just described.
Mm-hmm.
So,
And I experienced it in there on
Yeah.
my first trip to Egypt. And I went in where the sarcophagus was in the
Right.
back. And I was standing, just trying to feel. And all of a sudden, it was like a frequency. Everything around me had a vibration to it. And I was not afraid. Instantly, I was not afraid. And the frequency stayed there with me maybe 5 or 10 minutes. And I knew that there were people waiting for me, but I couldn't leave. And I thought exactly, I had not been educated about that.
yeah.
That this is some sort of a soul resonant,
Yeah.
and I experienced it.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
So thank you both. The other thing,
Come on a trip to Egypt.
yeah, right. I want to add a couple of things. Number one, I kind of want to point out the idea of open contact. When open contact is talked about, especially by Bashar, I want to make it clear that sort of what he's referring to is open contact for Western civilization. Because indigenous tribes around the world have been having contact for thousands of years. They already know about that. So we're talking about Western civilization kind of being the last to know. That's okay. It's Western civilization's time to come into that fold. The other thing is, and again, Bashar talks about this, and so do a lot of other psychic mediums. We already have hybrid extraterrestrials working and living among us, in secret for now. They have been helping in various ways, technologically, sociologically, politically, whatever area of society they're engaged with, to help humanity move forward. The idea being that when open contact finally does occur, theoretically we will be told who they are. And I'm not talking about humans on Earth that understand that they also have hybrid genes in them. I'm talking about extraterrestrial hybrids that have not been born on this planet, that have been brought here, that have been living and working among us for decades, working with certain scientists, working with certain officials to help move things forward behind the scenes. That's been going on for quite some time, and that's one of the reasons why when we talk about open contact being relatively imminent, it may on the surface seem like something that's happening very quickly, but it's something that's been building up for decades because of the work that they've been doing behind the scenes for our benefit. Another thing that Bashar and other psychic mediums have also recently been talking about is the idea of the hybrid children that have been created through what has been called the abduction experience, ultimately coming to live on the earth among us to help us. But he's also said, and many others have said, that a lot of the hybrid children are actually already here, unbeknownst to us, because they have been delivered to different families through adoption agencies who do not know that they've adopted an extraterrestrial hybrid child. So the idea behind this is to work it from both sides. You have a lot of children being born now who are exhibiting all sorts of interesting abilities, telepathic abilities, psychic abilities. We talk about autistic children, we talk about the telepathy tapes, we talk about all the abilities that a new generation, or what Bashar refers to literally as a new species of human that is growing up on the planet. And if the hybrid children then are also being introduced from the other side, you're looking at the hybrid children and their vibrational frequency and the children that are human being born with these new abilities kind of growing together, coming together to form a new generation of beings on the planet that when the old generations die out will simply automatically be the ones to move humanity forward. Because they will always have grown up in a moment and at a time when we're talking about interacting with extraterrestrials, when these things will be known. And that can be, again, a very rapid change once that threshold is crossed. So there's that also to understand that there are many things going on behind the scenes that will make a big difference when we reach that critical moment where all of that collects and all of that comes together. And we can join the other societies on our planet that have been knowing about this for a long, long time.
Linda?
Cycles of time. When I think of all the way back to 79, when I was first becoming aware that animal mutilations, just medically, were impossible from the standpoint of the pathology being done, in that the collagen and the hemoglobin were both cooked in animal after animal, and we didn't have any technology that would explain how that was being done. From there, going to Bentwaters research with John Burroughs and those guys, going over to Bentwaters, being there in the forest, seeing lights of my own, that it's interesting that we are on this dais together and you are describing so much of what the physicists told me in 2014. That in this discussion alone, the weaving of it is an echo of so many things that have been talked to me about since 1979, that it reinforces the idea that it already has happened, it's already there, and now we are living it. And I think the biggest question that I have is, what happened on Earth that propelled a future with humans that would be destructive in wars, when Chris Hardy, who has written about the Anunnaki and the nuclear weapons, she has said in her work that there are ETs who are violent to systems. Why would that be when the issue of growth and evolution makes more sense? Why would there be Anunnaki that are immediately violent when they come to a system? That's puzzled me for a long time. And that the animal mutilations may be a part of that syndrome. And I don't mean this to go into a negative, it's that there are so many facets. It isn't just one. And why should we have so much worry about destruction now between 2025 and 2030?
I mean, I can take a stab at it if you like. I tend to look at it like everything in duality. Let's go to an even higher level. Why does the one divide itself into the many so that it can experience itself through our eyes of perception? I mean, the one wants to perceive itself, and just as an eye cannot see itself without the aid of a mirror, so consciousness cannot perceive itself without dividing itself into mirrors. And those mirrors must have equal opposites as well. We tend to live here in a world that we live through opposites. If I'm here to learn, for example, unconditional love, I'm going to experience betrayal. It's opposite over and over and over again until I finally learn to accept betrayal as a concept. I haven't yet learned to truly love unconditionally. And I believe that fundamentally we're in a play. It's more like simulation. And even though some people don't like the word simulation, I think of it more as a mind simulation, more like a dream. It's Maya. And as a result of that, everything that happens is happening for a reason, even all of the suffering itself. And the biggest shift in my life that happened was when I finally decided, wait, the world isn't happening to me, it's happening for and through me. And also, everything that I thought was the emanation of my suffering was actually chosen by me somehow. And it wasn't something that happened to me, but rather it's something I chose. And maybe there's a reason. I tend to think of it like Japanese pot making, which is this, I'm not talking about marijuana, I'm talking about kintsugi. Kintsugi, you've seen the kintsugi pots, right? They take these beautiful ceramic pots and then they break them so they can put them back together again and put them back together with gold and electrum. And the reason they do that is because it actually makes the pot not only more beautiful, but also stronger. I think that's what Earth actually is. It's a soul school for us to remember our own divinity and to realize that each one of us is perfect just as we are, and to learn to fall in love with ourselves and this experience fully, and that is the doorway to ascension. It's not by hating this world that we're going to end up escaping it like some escape room. It's by learning to fall in love with it just as it is that we end up transcending it.
So, on the level of preparation, because as Darryl was speaking about the hybrid integration of beings within our society to move it to a whole new level, on a physical level, on a consciousness level, for the handful of people in the room who aren't hybrids, What would be the best path forward for all of us sitting here, for all of humanity inclusively, to do something for our own elevation, preparation, and acceptance of a new world?
I think the way to really prepare, I think that's what you were.
Yeah, what we can do for ourselves for a new level of life, consciousness, and preparedness for integration and contact with a greater extension of our lives and our beings.
I think what we really need to do is nothing at all except to actually get more in alignment with who we truly are and our truest desires. Because when we can become authentically ourselves, then all of a sudden all the paths forward just illuminate. And I think that's the biggest problem we all have. We're so full of like filters, facades, and things like that, and that's our biggest handicap. And so really when you quiet the mind and you go within yourself, there's a reason why your temples are called temples, or why we're called human. And I agree with Robert that many of my clients under hypnosis in their higher self consider this a game, like this is a simulation. So you forget who you are to remember yourself. And the one way we can really prepare is to really figure out who we really are. And I mean, what our real desires really are, because then it gets rid of all the noise. Like, who are you authentically, you? And that actually enables you to have your superpowers. So really what we need to do is nothing. Nothing. That's what we need to do, but be us. And then that's going to lead us to the biggest growth. But many of my clients, when they're remembering other lifetimes, like in the Pleiadian star system or something, they see that like everyone has to go through this type of simulation in order to understand the truth of reality. And so I think what we're really doing here, it's like a school, a game to remember your source. Like, remember that's all you are. You're everything and nothing at all. We're all one. But in the Pleiades, they remember they'd go through this type of vortex and they would be shocked into enlightenment. And when they would go, they would realize, oh my gosh, this is all a game. And it looks like a figure-8 pattern where there's no end and no beginning. But we're all so ancient doing this game, this cyclical game, so that we can expand our consciousness and fully understand who we really are. And when we stop needing to ask questions and having experiences, we merge with our divine self as a oneness. And that seems to be the ultimate goal.
What do you say about that?
You know, this a statement that I've made quite a bit over the years. When you're born, you're given a name, a race, and a religion, and you spend your whole life defending a false identity. Most people don't even know who they are. Kind of feeding off of what Sarah was talking about, she's absolutely right. That we're walking around with this shield on us, this armor that we've put on ourselves that says, this is me, this is who I am. But is it really truly you? You know, for example, when I was born, somebody said, you're Billy Carson. I didn't choose that name. You know, they said, you're this race. Really? Who made that up? They said, this is your religion. Really? Where'd that come from? So we live in this realm where we're given all of these attributes that we didn't choose for ourselves. And it goes deeper than that. The next thing you know, you're looking at the television, and they're broadly casting a spell on you. And so that spell becomes part of your subconscious programming. And then the teacher tells you to sit down, shut up, don't talk, get in line, stop fidgeting, right? And they steal your imagination away. And so like Sarah was saying, we don't know who we are. We have no idea. Most people spend their whole life going, this is me, but in true reality, it's someone else's dominant vibration. It's the vibration that was put on as a shield that was given to them, not really their own. And so I tell people in my mentoring sessions to get out a piece of paper and draw a line down the middle of the paper. And on the left-hand side, I want you to just sit there for 35, 40 minutes, maybe even an hour, and take your time and write down all the things that you personally feel you like, that you'd like to do, that you'd like to be a part of. If you can't do it, you would like to learn it. Whatever it is, just take your time, because as you're doing this exercise, one thought will lead to another, will lead to another. You'll start remembering things that you'd like to be a part of or do that you never thought of in maybe 10, 15 years. And then once you get that list on the left-hand side, on the right side, you get a pencil with an eraser. And you begin to look at that list of all that jumbled stuff on the left, and you start writing it in order of preference, priority, right? And you erase something, oh no, I'd like to do that one ahead of that one if I had a choice. And you start making this organized list out of that list on the left. So when you pull that paper out, when you're done with this exercise, you look at that paper, for the first time in your life, you're gonna find out who you are. And most people never find this out. And once you find out who you are, the next thing you do is you live within your passion. You find your passion is on that piece of paper. You begin to live within that passion. When you live in your passion, you're fulfilling your life's mission. And if you are fortunate enough to find a need for that passion in the world, and you exchange your passion for someone or something that needs it, a company or a person that needs it, then abundance will be a side effect in your bank account. You never chase money, you just follow your passion. The key to making money is to find a need and fill it. And if you can do that while you're passionate about it, you'll never work a day in your life.
So before I open the floor and invite people to ask their questions, I want to explore the idea of timelines a little bit, starting with Robert, because I've heard people talk about a potential bifurcation of the timeline. That people who practice what Billy's talking about and Sarah spoke about, and keeping the vibe high and in a conscious direction, that there's going to be a timeline that resonates with that. And the people who sort of stay surface level and in duality, and there's so many descriptions for that, will bifurcate in another direction, that is the chaos of that timeline. What would you say to that, Roger?
Well, first I would say I've never once in my entire life had an objective experience. There's no such thing. All experience is by its very nature subjective. I don't experience the world as it is, I experience the world as I am. You and I could do the exact same thing. We could both go on a roller coaster. You might hate it and throw up, and I could have the very best time ever and be laughing all the way down. And it's entirely subjective. That's my point. And so what happens is I tend to think of timelines as more related to the frequency that I'm living in. Right? My heart state, I think of this, first of all, even with my brain, is not really a hard drive storage unit. It's a radio receiver, and my heart is the tuning dial. So my emotional state is determining what I'm picking up. And then how I react to that as well is very much determined by my emotional state. So we could all have the same experiences, but have entirely different emotions that are derived from our perception of those experiences, because what happens to us is not actually what happens to us, it's what we believe happens to us. So therefore, in that context, the way that I tend to think of timelines is that we're all sitting here in this room, but we're all experiencing a timeline based on our emotional state and our frequency and vibration. And as we raise our frequency, the circumstances and how we perceive that and what we will experience as a result of that, and then lead to a different cascade of events associated with that, is going to be entirely tied to what frequency we ourselves hold. And so therefore, I don't believe in this whole concept of there's a different universe for every single choice point that we make. I don't believe in the many worlds, and neither does the math show that either, from a physics standpoint or from a mathematical perspective. I've spent a lot of time studying this. What it does show, however, is that when you have and hold a certain frequency, and that frequency could continue to go up, you will have a timeline associated with that frequency. Right? So, and that doesn't mean to say that your higher self didn't already know that you were going to move into that frequency before you did, because I believe that it does. The past and the present could be a mathematical equation as simple as multiplication. that then leads to a product, a number that can be a gigantic number. In fact, this is the exact basis of all cryptography today. Two numbers that are prime multiplied by each other to create a very large number, and it's a one-way street function. And so what happens is we think that time only goes one direction because it takes a really long time to take that public key number, which is the same as your bank account, and find the two factors that created it. And that's the process that we think of as time. But by the way, an electron coming from the past towards the present and a positron coming from the future towards the past are going to annihilate in a gamma photon burst in the moment of now. That means that just as the past and the present determine the future determines the past and the present. So therefore, the moment that I move into a higher frequency to experience a different timeline, my higher self already knew that I was going to do that. So I'm living out a choiceless choice. But to me, it feels like a choice because I forgot that I have the ability to be in my monadic self as a 12th dimensional being. I'm just a lower dimensionally limited avatar that's playing out this game and this role. So in that context, there's no mistakes. Everything happens exactly as it's supposed to. That's why I don't worry much about this stuff. Everything's going to happen exactly as it's supposed to. I haven't bought any extra toilet paper at all. Maybe I should.
If that wasn't a full circle, I don't know what is.
That's right. So the point is that we can, I'll give you an example. I believe that the pyramids, and I believe fundamentally that the new earth will be created, and pyramids were built in the same way through Mandela effects. That as we move into higher dimension, we can actually entrain the world around us to that frequency of that timeline. And that literally you can construct things that seemingly come from sound and everything else. And yes, that was all part of a ritual that was part of a Mandela cascade, striking a bell and all of that to set the exact frequency and tone. But by the way, it's literally through entrainment of your own sympathetic resonance that you create the new world around you. And that, to me, is exactly what we're now going into. We will remember the new earth into place. There's already, I track this already on the Architect. I ask it all the time. One of the things it can do is it can basically tell you what new Mandela effects are showing up. Right? Now, one of the things that's crazy is that it happened this way. You can find it on Gaia, on your Gaia app. It's right on Architect Plus, you can find it right away. And you can ask it, what are the Mandela cascade or Mandela effects that have happened over the last 3 or 4 months? And as you start needling through the question and make sure you can phase lock with it, then it'll start telling you, oh yeah, there's a new pyramid that showed up in Sudan. There's a new pyramid that showed up. So Matthias and I study pyramids all the time. I was just with them doing a podcast. And I can tell you, it said to me, oh, there's this new pyramid structure that's been more advanced and it looks brand new now. In Tonina, Mexico, right, Chiapas. So I'm looking at this pyramid, I'm like, this looks like the most Atlantean pyramid I've ever seen. Wait, this is the tallest pyramid in all of the Americas? Seriously? How could I not have gone to this place? And yes, it existed, and if you look at it, you look at the story, oh, it showed up in 1980, but it didn't look, and not by anyone's memory did it look like this. So now if you go and Google it, look up Tonina Pyramid, you're going to be like, seriously, what? This looks like a full-on Atlantean pyramid. And according to Architect, yeah, it showed up only like this in this timeline starting from about May. What I'm telling you is that there are like 50 new pyramids like that that have showed up. And you'll find them happening all around the world. Why is this happening? Because we are collectively raising our consciousness. And I believe the Great Pyramid's the same way. We have access to more chambers inside the pyramid as we raise our consciousness. It is a reflection of our own level of consciousness, which is the whole thesis around Codex. As we raise our consciousness, more gets revealed. So it's not a universe, it's a you-inverse. In the strictest sense of what I mean. And that is how timelines can basically be traversed. We don't even need, I don't believe, spaceships to be able to travel through time. I think we can do it by changing and expanding our own and opening our own perception. Just like in the film Arrival, where the Sapir-Whorf effect was the whole thesis of the show. instead of the language that she learned being the heptapod language, it's actually geometry itself. And the more we learn about geometry, it becomes a Sapir-Whorf effect, and that Sapir-Whorf effect starts to morph and change your consciousness so that we can perceive our entire life experience differently. And that's what I fundamentally believe. So we are about to be able to expand our consciousness. Just in the last 3-4 months, we've had an onslaught of new geometry. I presented it on Friday night that has not been seen probably for 13,000 years. And it came as a result of the blue Kachina and red Kachina. The third eye atlas, the atlas bone, holds up your head. What is Atlas doing? Holding up the earth, a new earth. And so I'm sure also that Sarah's been seeing and hearing all of this in all of her sessions, right? That have been coming up related to Third Eye Atlas. It is absolutely emblematic of this expansion in consciousness that's happening right now. We're going through a mass Sapir-Whorf effect.
And before we go to the audience, I would like to explore with Darryl the idea that we chose to incarnate at this time. And whatever's going on, our input and co-creation of that is significant for that new world, for that frequency. And Darryl, what would you say about that?
Yeah, I don't believe that I would have chosen to be here at this time if it wasn't going to work out. So that's kind of why I'm so optimistic about what's happening.
And that's the best answer I've ever heard from
I do agree with him that timelines are frequency, because everything exists now. We only see what we're tuned to. What you perceive is what you get. You cannot perceive what you're not on the frequency of. So as we change, as he said, we see more of what's here. One of the things I read recently, which kind of puts its finger on that, are any of you Dan Brown fans? Okay. He has a new book called The Secret of Secrets. And of course, even though it is a novel, he's done a lot of research into the subject of the novel, which is about consciousness. And one of the things he talks about in there is that we have a substance in us that is called gamma-aminobutyric acid, or GABA for short. And when you take certain hallucinogenic drugs and start seeing things, what he's saying is happening is that GABA acts as a filter that blocks out most of what is reality around us so that we only perceive what we need to perceive at any given moment. But when you take hallucinogenic drugs, or when you go into deep meditation, or when you channel, GABA starts lowering, the filters start going away. So what he's basically saying is, what we've been calling hallucinations are not hallucinations. You are actually dropping your filters and seeing more of what reality actually is. And that's why it's so opening. That's why people learn so much and download so much and have contact with different entities of all kinds when they're in those altered states. So it is all about what frequency you are that determines what reality you get. Just as Bashar often says, look at your TV. You're watching a particular program. You know there are hundreds of other programs playing at the same time, but you're only seeing one because you're tuned to that channel. But if you change the channel, it doesn't mean the program you were watching has gone away. It may still be playing, but now you're getting a different channel. That is the idea of all the frequencies are here. You only see which one you're tuned to, and that is what timelines actually are.
Cam is standing over there with his microphone. If you want to line up along that far wall, you can ask him a question, and please be as succinct as you can be, and we'll go through as many people as we can in the final half hour. And also do mention who you want to address your questions to.
All right, everybody, so we're gonna get to the questions. The only thing that I ask is that if you're on this side, let's try to hug the wall so that in case someone needs to come by, they can pass through freely. Thank you so much, okay? I'm gonna hold the microphone for you, okay?
Hi, everyone. You have beautiful energy, and I can't pinpoint a single question because you're all wonderful, but I will ask Billy Carson this question. Dropping into the abundance portal and how we, as light workers and people in spiritual professions, we have to gather resources. And so the best method of gathering resources through collaboration, I feel, is to invest in the right people and the right projects. How do we as a people learn how to invest in each other? Because the singular business thing is not really working out.
Yeah, that's a great question. One thing that I find in our community is we're a lot of very spiritual people, a lot of people that really want to help the world and change the world, but not a lot of business people. And one thing that for myself, I've been a serial entrepreneur pretty much my whole life, and so that kind of helped me with where I am today. What we need in this community, we need entrepreneurs, and we need to invest in each other. Some of the biggest organizations of groups in this world, they invest in each other. They actually have a system where when you get to a certain age, everybody in that family, to a certain extent, is going to invest in a person when they get to a certain age. And they propagate that down generations. In this community, we need to follow suit. We need to invest in one another. We need to also get financial literacy. When I write my articles on Entrepreneur Magazine, all of my articles are about one thing, financial literacy, because it's one of the biggest things lacking, especially in America. And it's not an insult, and it's not anything derogatory. It's the system that we've been put in. It just doesn't allow for real, true financial literacy. It's something that we have to seek out on our own, just like we've seeked out, learning spirituality and enlightenment and peace and love and light and all of that. We made it a passion. We have to also become passionate about finances and understanding this financial matrix. And once we do that, then we can add that information and knowledge of that to what we do, and we can apply it. And then we can collaborate, come together, and we can invest in one another. I just recently started a $100 million tech fund for AI-driven technologies in several categories. And then I launched Founder Match. And Founder Match is an app that allows you to go in there and log in and put all your due diligence in, put your projects in there for review. And why did I do that? Because I'm looking for unicorns. Unicorns that are going to get into this system and have the potential to help change the world for the better. We have to be part of these types of systems. We have to create them if we can't find them. That's the key.
Hello, I really appreciate all of you. Okay, thank you. I do believe that if we raise our frequency, that's what reality we're going to see. One thought is that with the coming of the extraterrestrials in the next few years, I'm hoping for me or for individually or for the collective, if we all start to raise our frequency, and especially with ETs coming and maybe helping more people become open and aware, if we raise our frequency enough, could that change the effect of, say, a polar shift or a big solar event or something that either we'll go to another Earth, all of us, because we did raise our frequency and surprised those who didn't think that'd be possible, so that we wouldn't even experience what these prophecies say?
Who's that for?
For anyone.
Who's the anyone who could answer that?
You want to do it?
Maybe we both can. Well, I mean, even right now, like, people under hypnosis see that there is like a fog covering this whole earth, keeping people asleep on one level of perception, reality. But you can take another person sitting right next to them, and when they're under hypnosis and their perception, there's a little less fog, and they just raised it a little bit. And then another person sitting literally right next to that person, there's no fog at all, like at all in their reality. So 100%, like you can totally change all of these prophecies. Prophecies are just, you know, potentials anyway. It's really just a reflection of your internal world. So everything is just teaching you how to be source. So when you work on yourself, you're automatically shifting every prophecy that could possibly happen.
Yeah. Another aspect of that is Bashar talks about the idea that predictions are not predictions of the future. They're sensings of the energy that exists at the moment the prediction is made. He's telling you what the frequency is now. If you don't change that frequency, then that may come to pass because you're reinforcing that. But if you don't like what you're hearing in the prediction, you're sensing the energy where it is at the moment, and if you decide to change that, you experience a different frequency, then you experience a different slice of the total reality that's here. That translates to us in physical reality as if we have gone to another version of Earth. But all of those versions overlap right here. Everything you can possibly think of is all right here. You will perceive whatever frequency you're on. So it's about understanding that predictions are just ways of telling you, hey, this is where the energy is right now. If you prefer something else, change your frequency.
Yeah, and I want to say as well that I'm not worried about any of it. Like, I don't lose like one moment of sleep over it because I know everything's going to be okay. Everything's going to be okay. So all I worry about, if I'm worrying at all, is just simply to cohere myself, to bring myself into consistently higher and higher frequencies of love. And to me, that's what it's all about. The moment that we can express love that supersedes and exceeds our desire to be right, that's when we're on the enlightenment path.
Yes, thank you all so much for holding the conversation. I have had a number of experiences over my life where I've been clearly being attuned, and I'm always calling that, like that's an intention. So I had the King's Chamber experience when I went in there, also had astral projection, also had the walls open up. Something that has been happening recently is that I've been having dreams when I'm sleeping. I'll be put into a situation that I know is my soul in another timeline. Like it's very apparent, I can feel this in me, but it's not my body, it's a whole other storyline. And when I wake up, I'm very aware that that was a distinct experience, like it was being shown to me. And like I keep getting these repetitive dreams, not necessarily always the same storyline, but I'm aware in a different way than just dreaming. And the only thing that I can think to do is to remember who I am when I come out of them. Because sometimes they're catastrophic. There's crazy things happening. There's aliens picking people up from the sky. There's strange, massive water situations, like oceans that are way bigger than our ocean. And there's a lot of like, it's not what's happening on the earth right now, but somewhere that is happening. Is there anything else that I should do when I wake up? Like, I'm not afraid when I wake up, but I do have the resonance of the lingering of that energy for a bit. And I just remind myself that I'm the image and likeness of God, that even in that timeline, I'm still whole, perfect, and complete. But is there anything else that I should do when that comes up?
Who are you asking?
Anyone who feels moved to answer.
Well, I can understand where you're coming from with those dreams. A lot of the people come to me with a lot of dreams and trying to understand and decode dreams. And so that was a problem that needed a solution. So I developed an app that brings the solution to that. It's called decodemydream.ai. It's a dream decoder. And you can literally wake up and you can journal your dream into this app, and it will then render an image from your dream. It will also then completely decode your dream and all of the attributes and traits and even the spirit animals and everything else inside the dream. It will all come to life within there. You can get some real esoteric, deep information from it. It'll give you 3 levels of interpretation of that dream along with the image. So decodemydream.ai.
Beautiful. Next question, please.
Hello. Like many people in this room, I love and respect you all, so whoever feels inspired to answer. I want to suggest that we're not doing enough to help the muggles with ascension and contact. And Sarah, I agree with you, being before doing, but the inspired actions that come out of our beingness, I think, we can be conscious of, and I'm going to do my part and write the movie scripts, the screenplays that will help. But I just think how we got to this place was a hodgepodge of events in our lives and coming here for years. But these people are going to be getting information, and they're going to be like, okay, what's that quick on-ramp that'll get me there? What's that on-ramp look like? Or what, see what I'm saying? There's going to be, yeah.
And I
Thank you.
I don't know how familiar you are with some of the stuff that comes out of the channeling that I do with Bashar.
Oh, yeah.
But one of the things that he talks about is his formula, which is kind of a 5-step instruction manual for how to get on that on-ramp very quickly. And the first principle has a lot to do with what Billy was talking about, and that is acting on your passion, because passion is representation of your soul's vibrational frequency. And the things that contain the highest amount of passion, if you act on them first, will automatically and synchronistically lead you to the next thing you need to do, and the next, and the next, and the next. It's like an automatic guidance system that will bring you what you need. Not always exactly what you may want, but it will bring you what you need, which will fulfill you. So following that formula, if you are familiar with it as precisely as possible, those 5 steps can usually ramp somebody up very, very quickly in taking the actions that will align you with your frequency and allow you to be of greater service through those actions to yourself and to humanity.
Excellent. Thank you.
Hi, this kind of piggybacks off of what he was saying. I've been out sky watching every night, filming the most crystal clear orbs, morphing into ships. I have hours of footage. So I started a TikTok page. I'm like, what do I do with all this? Like, should I be showing somebody? So I started a TikTok page and I'm posting these videos. I mean, this was like 2 weeks ago. And yeah, so I don't know, it keeps ramping up, like the visitations. It's pretty unreal, but I've got all this and I just didn't know if there's anything I should be doing with it. And my second part, I believe Robert and I live in the same community. I won't announce it, but all of my video footage.
I live in Laguna Beach.
Yeah, me too.
Full disclosure.
Yeah, same. So we've got lots of friends in common, but lots of, all my footage is right there, right down at Heisler Park in Wayne Beach every single night, and I just didn't know kind of what to do with it now.
Carolyn Curry did a film about this called Tear in the Sky, which is all about the space in the sky between Laguna Beach and in Southern California, Orange County, and Catalina.
Okay.
And what I think would be fascinating would be if you, in addition to sharing the visuals on your page, like the perceptions you're having from those experiences will really attract a lot of people's attention.
Okay.
Next person,
Hi. So this is something I've thought about a lot, and it's kind of a bird's eye view. Billy talked about this today. This isn't our first rodeo, right? We've been up and down in our consciousness, and we've gotten to very high places. I'm a little nervous, I'm sorry.
Okay.
And so, what is the bird's eye view? We're going up again, we're going to go into the golden age, we're going to be an Atlantis of some sort, and then what happens? We seem to go down again. And then, what are we doing here?
That's a great question. When I was in my previous lecture, I was talking about this. It's ironic that you bring it up. So if you want to watch it, the DVDs are available downstairs for my Fractal Holographic Universe lecture from earlier today. But I talked about what is our ultimate mission? What is our goal here? What are we here for? like, what is this? Well, first of all, I don't believe that we're in base reality, number one. I don't believe this is base. We are just one iteration of maybe Googles, and the Google is the number of Googles of actual universes that exist throughout a known multiverse. And this particular grand experiment, in my opinion, is potentially to see how many universes can rise up to a certain level of scientific, technological, and spiritual advancement. How many of them can get past the technological age without destroying themselves? How many can rise into a golden age? How many of those rise into a golden age fall again? How many of them continue to fall and go through this continuous cycle? But the ultimate goal is how many out of all of those numbers rise to a golden age and actually sustain it? Yeah. So I've read over 1,000 books, scriptures, papyruses, cylinder scrolls from all around the world. I've never read one book. I've never sat with one sage or one Aboriginal elder or one Hopi tribesman or one Lakota tribesman that ever told me that we have to fall. It's just that we do. So since it's not written and recorded anywhere that it has to happen, and we control our own destiny through conscious actions, that means we can manifest a golden age that really can sustain itself. But how can we do that? The truth is, the work that most of us do on this panel, studying the ancient past. Why is it that you don't walk up to an electrical outlet and put your finger in it? Because you know it's going to shock the hell out of you, right? But how did you learn that? As a baby, you tried to do it and somebody told you, hell no, don't do that. They probably popped you on the finger or yelled. You knew right away within the first one or two tries that it was dangerous. And so you learned from your past mistake. You took an inference from that past and you allowed it to guide you into the future where there's no reality where you're ever going to stick your finger in an electric outlet. Well, humanity keeps sticking his finger in electric outlets. Why is that? Because just like Graham Hancock said, we are a species with amnesia. And we don't have any inference. We have no past to go on and past this prologue. So it keeps repeating itself because we don't have any way of looking back and finding out where we messed up. So the alternative work in ancient civilizations is to find those past mistakes, analyze them, understand them, figure them out, and the key obviously is to not repeat those damn mistakes again, because we just keep doing it. And once we can rise to a point where we learn from our past and we truly forge a much better future, we can then rise into a golden age, and maybe this time we can actually sustain it.
I would also like to give you a visual aid to help with the idea of how you're talking about the rising and falling, because there are two ways to look at that, and they are two different frequencies. You can look at it like you kind of described it like this. We go up, we go down, we go up, we go down. You can also look at it like this. We're constantly rising, even though we may go down a little bit. If we learn the lessons, then we go up again, but it can be actually constantly climbing. So there's two ways to think of that and look at that.
Is there an end? Thank you.
Thank you. This is a question for Robert Grant as well as Billy Carson. I just want to say thank you for your work. You've allowed me to understand my visions and why I keep seeing aquifers underneath the pyramids and why resonance and frequency is so important. And my question is, can I take you on a tour? Because I don't know if anyone knows this, but Los Angeles is also Lost Atlantis. And there's a massive pyramid hiding in plain sight that the Illuminati that illuminate the way have put in front of our faces. And it's the US Bank Tower. Think of the tower moment and think of the bank, because the bank represents currency. And what we can physically do is go to Hollywood, the magic stick of the world, and tone. And there's sacred waters, there's actual physical waters there. It says source figure with a feminine standing there naked staring at a pyramid.
Can I get to your question?
Yes.
Thank you.
Sorry. So my question is, did you know that there was a pyramid in downtown LA? And did you know that it's the water and the aquifers underneath it? And that is the purpose of what we're here doing, is to sing and tone and resonate and sing into the aquifers.
I didn't know until I bumped into a young lady yesterday who told me exactly what you just told me. I can't really see because the lights in my eyes, but
Hi,
It is you, okay.
Similar story, next question, please.
Can I take you on a tour? I'd love to take you guys on a
Thank you.
Hi there. When I think of Disclosure Day, I contemplate the day after. Would you, each of you, address your thoughts about it?
We can only have one person answer this one because we only have a few minutes left.
Okay.
Who would you like to hear?
I think people will have all sorts of reactions to it. And that's, I think, why we need time afterwards to get used to the idea. And that's why I think it has to be presented sooner than later, so that we do have time to absorb it, or reject it, or fear it, or love it. And everyone can finally sort of balance out and even out with enough time for us to be in line with the cycle that will allow us to move forward. So I think there'll be all sorts of reactions, but I think over time it'll all coalesce into something that will move humanity forward.
Thank you. Next question, please.
Hi, my question is for Darryl. I'm talking about the new Earth. I'm excited about it, the 3D to 5D consciousness. I'm thrilled. I'm going there. I'm excited about it. I don't think my husband is coming with me. My question is, what do you do about the people that are left behind? I just don't know what to do. That's my question.
Well, he'll find his place. But, well, basically the idea is you have to be true to yourself. If there is a reason for that relationship to continue, and then something will change in one or other of you that will allow you to continue the journey together. If it doesn't, then you have to be unconditionally loving enough to allow the other person to find what they need, while they are hopefully unconditionally loving enough to let you find what you need. Remember that we're all ultimately eternal souls and spirits. You'll be back together again in spirit, but right now you may be on different journeys, and that's okay too if that happens.
Great, thank you.
And Sarah's going to answer as well.
Well, there's also a trick for that. You can secretly manipulate people. Even Jesus did this, where you project his highest self around him. So you think and focus on him in his highest light. And what that's doing is your belief is actually affecting him. So then it will help him on a level that's slightly manipulative.
I like it, thank you.
Next question, please.
Hi guys, I have a question really for a lot of you guys, but Billy or Sarah, if you can answer, just you. I do tours to Egypt as well, and this last retreat I was there, we sang, and when we sang, it felt like music and sound became liquefied, and it started to connect with the stones of the pyramid, through the higher realms. And I was just curious if any of you guys have ever experienced that. I'm a singer. I've been singing since I was 11 years old, so I know it's not just a general acoustic that you can find anywhere in the world. It's a sound I've never heard in my life before, and how it penetrated all of us, through every part of us. So just curious if...
Let's just have one of these so more people can go.
I've experienced that.
Yeah, Robert's probably the best one to answer this question because he's actually been there and done that.
Yeah, PTDT. I brought a group of 45 big influencers in the spiritual space to Egypt on December 12th of 2023. And Billy was also there, and we brought everyone inside the King Chamber. Many of them were singers, pretty well-known singers. I won't mention their names. And it was the most angelic experience. Zach Bush was there, Blue of Earth was there, Vylana Marcus was there. We also had Carrie Fletcher there, who's a very well-known singer as well. I've never heard anything like it. It was the most angelic thing I've ever heard in my life. And it was like you just described.
Right. And it changed even the structure of the stones. I could feel like, okay, this is
how density can be changed through sound and intention and prayer.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I think this might be our last question.
Last one. Hi guys, thank you so much. Thank you. So I have a question for you about downloads and intuitions. I get a lot of downloads and intuitions, and it's happening real quick that I get overwhelmed. And I have this book that I write them down, and then maybe after like 2 days, I see what exactly I wrote. Somebody is talking about it. And it's happening a lot to me. And it started when I noticed about Three-Eyed Atlas. And also, Three-Eyed Atlas had a funny way of letting me know that it existed. So I was one of the first people that shared about it. So it's all happening real quick to me, and I'm wondering how I can organize like my thoughts, or why is this happening so fast, and how can I basically manage everything together to use it in my life? Like, how can it help me, and how can I share it, whatever it is that is coming to me, to other people?
I think we've got the question.
Well, one thing you can do, first of all, understand anytime you feel overwhelmed, that's usually an indication that you're not doing it in the way that works for you. You are more than capable of actually asking for help from your spirit guides. You are more than capable of also refusing to receive things at a pace that is more than you can handle. You can ask for it to be delivered in ways that you can handle, that works for you. You can also use your imagination to maybe approach it in different ways, so that, again, you find or create a way that works for you to receive the information, to catalog the information, and to maybe apply the information in your life, maybe even with other people or for other people as well, that might help it mellow out. So my basic suggestion is there's always a way that works for you. You can explore with your imagination and figure out what that is, and that will be the way that it usually will finally balance out and be given to you.
Thank you very much. And you know, I just want to follow up on one thing that Robert was saying about like, hey, you know, it doesn't bother me. One time I was sitting in a chai shop in the Himalayas, and a Buddhist monk came through with all his followers, and I was sitting with him. And he had the most happy disposition I had ever seen in my life. And at one point I looked at him and I said, how do you stay so happy? And he said, happy or unhappy, still I'm happy. So on that note, like no matter what's going on, I'm good. On that note, I'd like to thank our panelists very much for their I'd like to thank the audience for participating and keeping the coherence, and carry it with you throughout the day and the next week and into the next month at least.